All right, I think we are live. Can you guys hear me? Is there anyone out there? We've sent out the Discord notification, updated the Twitter. Hopefully everyone knows we're going. Excellent. How's it going? So today is going to be a bit disorganized in that I'm not entirely sure what we are going to be doing. I thought maybe we'd pick up some more of the different kind of grab bag of things we haven't worked on yet. Maybe we'll work on common items a bit. I have that open here. That's in a way part of crafting, but it's also a standalone piece. It's something that we need for crafting, but it's not something that's crafting only. Give me 1 second while I see why this is. Yeah, I don't know why you'd think that you have a sudden need for dragon slaying items there. Did you agree to fight a duel with a dragon? That'd be kind of silly if you agreed to that. My players have recently agreed to fight a duel with an enemy force that happens to include a dragon. So now they're a bit more concerned about such things. Give me 1 second. I'm just trying to set this up correctly. Make the camera actually point towards me. Alright, whatever, that's gonna have to be good enough. Potionsmith rework, this is not. We probably don't. I mean, the Potionsmith integrates into this somewhat, and that's part of the goal here, is to make the alchemy items that exist in the game fit in more with the way that alchemy works when you're creating it. So there's going to be 3 parts to it, right? There's the Potionsmith, there's the crafting class alchemist, and then there's the then there's the common items that are produced by those people for other people to use. So we want a certain degree of compatibility between those 3 things. The more what the alchemist, what the potionsmith, and the common items deal with, the better it is that those are more consistent. And that was part of the goal here. But you guys actually remember is that part of what happened here, where we made it so you could attack directly with your common items, that actually got ported backwards into the potionsmith. So I thought the interesting thing to do today would be to go through this here and see if you guys can think of any other common items that you think D&D needs that either haven't been ported to this new system or would just be an interesting thing to add. So, like, obviously, in the first round, we missed holy water. So I was thinking I'd start that while we think of new ideas. I see poisons already. We'll talk about poisons and what we can add there. That's definitely something we need to add, especially for the crafting system, right? There's no way an alchemy crafting system would make any sense without the ability to make poisons of some sort. But surely there's gotta be more D&D is missing than just poisons. Alright, so as I said, let's start with the one that I know I'm missing because a lot of people brought it up last time, which is holy water. And that one will be easy because we're just going to be porting it into the system from what we already know of holy water. So we just make a new header here. Holy water. And can you guys all see? Am I on the right screen? No, I'm not. Excellent. Okay. Always yell at me when I've scrolled off to the wrong screen here. And let's bring up holy water over here. Alright, so the holy water as it exists in current D&D is, as an action, you can splash the contents of the flask onto a creature within 5 feet, or throw it up to 20 feet, shattering on impact. In either case, make a ranged attack against the target creature, treating holy water as an improvised weapon. If the target is a fiend or undead, it takes 2d6 radiant damage. A cleric or paladin may create holy water, blah, 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 blah. So one of the problems we have with this, right, is there's a weird disconnect in it that says you can splash the contents onto a creature within 5 feet. But in here it says, in either case, make a ranged attack. A ranged attack will be a disadvantage if you're within 5 feet. Right, not everything here is something an alchemist can create. Currently we're working on a list of common items. Now, those will be important for what an alchemist can create, but it's a Venn diagram of things that an alchemist can create and things that anyone can create. If we go back to our common items, right, we also have things like caltrops and ball bearings. So these are not all created by an alchemist. These are created by crafters in general. We just need to make sure that our list is as complete as possible before we can be finished with crafting. Whether or not they're all created by what school of crafting or not, that remains to be seen. So we want something similar to, we want basically 2 actions here. We want a short-range splashing attack, and we want a long-range shattering throw. So we can just snag this. It doesn't actually need a description of it, so we will just call it here. We'll make something here. What is holy water? A flask of shimmering clear water. It has a silver sheen to it. Glittering. Slightly glittering. Is the range attack considered keeping the vial intact or throwing it and letting it shatter? So currently the way it works is it considers both a ranged attack. So only the long range row the long range attack explicitly shatters the vial, but the short range attack is still considered a ranged attack, which would put it at disadvantage. Because that would make it a ranged weapon. So yeah, minor explosives would be a good item to add to this. Let's start keeping a list of things here below our holy water. We will make a new list of the various things that we need. So, back to items to make. We have holy water, which we're working on. We have poisons. And if you guys have any more specific ideas on poisons, what kind of poisons we want, feel free to throw them out there. Minor explosives. Minor explosives have just recently featured in my game. The players have a minion that is very fond of minor explosives, and it has not horribly backfired yet, but that remains to be seen. Explosives are a dangerous game. It's been made clear what happens with explosives when exposed to fire. So, flashbang, mine. These are kind of subheaders to minor explosives. Is this for the warlord? No, this is not specifically for the warlord. This is for just minor items that anyone can use. Archer hood, steels. Currently we're just working on, kind of a while ago, I revamped the common items a little bit. And we're going to make another, basically, we're kind of iterating on that draft. What this is for at the end of the day is for the crafting system. But it is also independent of the crafting system, because we don't necessarily need to have the crafting system complete to use this. Wouldn't poisons... Okay, let me catch it. Healing Poultice. That is a good one. So healing Poultice would be a good one, particularly when we're talking about crafting, because that can get us into healing potions, right? Healing potions are pretty strong. Maybe we have a lower level one that is a healing Poultice. Anti-poison, anti-toxin. Portable boat. I don't know if a portable boat, how you could make a portable boat that would be that portable. That might be getting into magic items if the boat actually collapses. Collapsible ladder? Maybe. That's more reasonable than a collapsible boat. Magic MREs, I think... Well, actually, let's go ahead and put in magical MREs. That seems like a thing that probably exists in the crafting system somewhere. Maybe that is for... Not all common magic items aren't magical. Common and magical are not necessarily obviously opposed. I believe that healing potions themselves are common items, and they are definitely magical. Okay, so there was some comments on poisons, arrowheads. Wouldn't poisons be more poisoner's kit? So poisoner's kit would fall under alchemy still. An alchemist can use a poisoner's kit, herbalism, or alchemy kit tools, depending on what they're making. Poison is not a separate crafting kind of tree from alchemy. So let's put a header here of special weapons. Let's bold some of these that have subheaders. arrow tips, arrow types. So grease, we actually already have oil up here. We probably want to combine grease and oil if we need both. Currently, oil is more flammable. It doesn't have the effect of the grease spell, but we might want to make a variant of oil that works more like grease. That would be more powerful. Yeah, currently I don't think it has... Oh yeah, currently it does have the grease effect on oil. Vial launcher. All right. A gel that rapidly becomes buoyant. A little bit too specific. Maybe there's use for it. Traps. What kind of traps do we have in D&D already? I know there's some traps already defined. Waterproof torches. That's probably a variant of torch. Maybe a variant of that is a flare, though. Convert raw material usable like raw gem into usable. So what would a usable gem be in this case? So right now I don't think that there's any requirements on gems for spells besides their value, which some spells ask for powdered gems. I think that might be a little bit simpler. I mean, that would just involve taking a hammer to it a couple times. Kinetic foam rapidly expands to fill an area. Sure. Expanding foam. That's definitely an alchemy thing in a D&D setting, but I think that's reasonable. Tattoos. I think that's getting into a separate header. That's probably not a common item. That's probably more akin to a magic item, in the sense that you were thinking of, probably anyway. Because I'm assuming we're expecting the tattoos to do something more than look fancy. Invisible ink. Does invisible ink already exist or not? No, it does not. So, sure. There's a spell for it. I think it's fine to have alternatives to low-level spells in some cases. Yeah, I am aware there is a UA about magic tattoos. For the most part, I think it was decent. It did have some oddities. I do disagree with the idea of being able to turn your magic tattoo back into an ink or needle or whatever it was. That seems a little bit too convenient to me for the idea of what they are, but mileage will vary there. Crafting parchment or books. That might be something we allow in crafting. I don't know if I think that's a common item we'd include here. maybe, I'm assuming at least parchment already exists. I think that even comes in the starting equipment of a diplomat's pouch or something. One of the starting equipment has a parchment and ink in it, so I'm pretty sure those are items that already exist. Alright, so the flood of ideas have slowed down here a bit. Let's start making some of these. Is that document going to involve crafting, or is it just items to craft? So this document is going to be published separate from crafting, but everything in this document will also be included in the crafting document. Some of you might have actually already seen the first version of this document, as it was already shared once, as a way to revamp the common items that already exist. So notice everything here is things that already exist that I just adjusted for the purposes of how I would prefer they work. Namely that it allows you to make attack rolls or saving throw AoEs with pretty much all of the alchemy things. As well as giving you some more options with how you use caltrops and ball bearings and so forth. But then everything that is here will go into the crafting system as part of that, right? So everything up here already is in the crafting system, and everything we make down here will go into it as things we can make. But I don't want the crafting system to be necessary to use these. So this is kind of like a subset of the crafting. Not necessarily a complete replacement or a not necessarily a complete replacement or a part of it. Alright, we are... So for our actions here, we want the ability to splash holy water and the ability to throw holy water. So I think we're gonna call this splash, and well, so there, okay, let me get my headings correctly here. Actions. Splash. Throw. So I'm thinking that the way that the splash effect of holy water would work, it'll be a dex saving throw instead of a ranged attack. That allows it to work in the 5 feet range better. And we'll also give it some sort of effect like acid splash, where it can attack 2 creatures within range. Now, how far do you think you can reasonably get a good splash of holy water going? 5 feet, 10 feet, probably not more than 10 feet. Currently trying to decide if you can probably get a reasonable splash at 5 feet or 10 feet. So, as an action, you can splash the contents of a flask Alright, so you can splash the contents of a... So I'm not sure what a flask is versus a vial. It does seem to imply that holy water comes by the flask. I'm not sure if that's a measurement or not. Let's see what it says a flask is. So a flask of oil is 1 pint. A flask of alchemy of fire is not defined. So this is a pint, it looks like. It weighs about 1 pound, so that kind of fits up with about a pint. Yeah, I think 5 feet is reasonable for a pint. You can splash creature. So let's go ahead and do the warding here as an action or as part of the attack action. And that says slash instead of splash. Oops. You can splash the contents of the flask in 5 feet. Dexterity. Alright. On failure, an undead, a fiend, or what's the wording here? A fiend or undead the target. So here's the next question. Do we think it makes sense to have grades of holy water? So like with alchemy fire, right, one of the things we introduced was the differences between common, potent, and powerful. Now that, when we get into the crafting system, depends on what sort of ingredients were used for it and what the skill of the crafter was. With more potent versions taking more potent ingredients to make, as well as being more challenging. Currently, there exists only one form of holy water, but I think it might be fun if we want to introduce more powerful holy water. Only if you are talking about blessed by the village priest versus blessed by the pope. That might be the difference, right? It might be based on what the skill of or what the degree of holy hierarchy the creator was. So, what would we call these? Let's put down a quality bar here. So, these are something like quality, effect, save DC, price. So common is 2d6, and the DC for this would be 12. And the price, we'll discuss price in a bit. I'm probably going to convert everything here to holier than thou water. We're probably going to convert everything here to Player's Handbook prices eventually, even though I don't personally use those. That was a very large complaint with the last version, is that my prices don't align with what the general thought of prices should be. So I will probably use Player's Handbook pricing in the future, but I'm not going to convert to that right now because that's going to take a lot of math. So we will throw this in at 25 gold. What would the necrotic opposite of holy water be? That is not a bad question. It's easy to imagine some sort of opposite of holy water substance. Yeah, you guys can brainstorm the best ideas over there while we finish up this one. I think that'd be a good thing to add, though. So then I saw, let's see, common, blessed, divine. That's a good list there. Blessed would be 3d6, 14, 50. Hey, Marty. We're currently trying to decide what the best name for unholy water would be. It's very exciting stuff we do around here. Keystone Light. I'm gonna take a pass on that name. I think there'd be licensing issues. So each time we go up one step here, and the price goes up accordingly. So I think I'm actually going to do something a bit different with this. I'm going to do another step in here called Celestial. 4d6. I might rename that, but the reason I want to do that is I want to make Divine a step above even the third tier. And Divine would probably be an actually quite rare substance. I'm imagining something called Divine Holy Water being holy water that is actually from a god. Or from a god's, river or spring or something. Something that is probably a bit more hard to get. This is probably not going to be part of the crafting system. It might be something that a 20th level kind of cleric or something could make. A Gassed Wretch Flask. That does sound horrifying. No, I think Divine would still be consumable. It would still be a use item. Otherwise, it'd be something you couldn't really give to your players very often. It's a lot easier to give your players consumables than it is to give them anything they'll reuse, because then they'll save it forever in their piggy bank. So I think this one we're going to do something a little bit silly. We'll do like... Because I don't want to just do 5d6 on this. What's like an Arrow of Dragon Slaying do? There is an Arrow of Dragon Slaying, I'm pretty sure. Arrow of Slaying, okay. That does 6d10. So we're going to do something, I think we're going to do an interesting idea here. So what we'll do is... Yeah, players will try to store consumables forever. That's why you make them fight dragons. And then your players complain that the fight is too hard despite using none of their consumable items. Because they are hoarders. So we're going to do something silly like 4d12 damage. We'll do 6d12. Hell, why not? DC 18. Yeah, now that you're fighting a dragon, you are going to. That's why you're fighting a dragon now. And here we'll just do... I don't think you can buy Divine Holy Water. This will probably set you back. Let's see, 200 gold. I will adjust those prices later. We shouldn't keep those. But we're going to do something here where we do asterisk or special, and let's just do asterisk. Since we only have one, that should work. Asterisk creatures undead. Let's see, how did they say it below? Finds or undead, fiendish or undead creatures below CR2 that are struck by this are banished or are permanently or destroyed. All right, so what have I missed? If Grim is complaining about me getting ideas, I need to look at something here. Do gods still have divine tiers? Yes, gods still have divine tiers. There's greater gods, lesser gods, and demigods, even in 5e. Fruit juice of slaying. I'm not sure what's going on there. Turns out to be a white dragon. I see, okay. I mean, they did see the dragon in the dark. Can you guys really tell the difference between a red dragon and a black dragon in the dark? Dark red, you know, maybe it's just a little bit sun-bleached black. Who can say? A dark ichor, black ichor. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to use several of those ideas. Is Demon's Ichor already a thing? I don't know. Demon's Ichor. Demon Ichor? So Demon Ichor is indeed a thing. I don't know if I own this book, though. Yeah, I don't own that book on D&D Beyond. So I don't know what it is. It is a mystery to us. There is definitely nowhere else I could go look that up that I'm not going to do right now. Alright, Brax, you can tell us what it is. Yeah, if one of you guys just wants to paste in chat what Demon Ichor is, we can see if that overlaps with what we need or not. Oops. I didn't mean to make that a... Yeah, so Demon Ichor is probably not... Oh, right, okay. I don't think Demon Ichor is what we want then. We want something simpler. We're just finding something you can throw at people to cause bad stuff. Fun effects are fun, but we want to have something that's a bit more generic and easy to process. Those are more effects to use against players for the most part. Shortening one of the player's legs is something they'll go to no amount of length to restore because they don't want to be a horrible mutant. But if you are fighting orcs, the orcs don't really care about being a horrible mutant because you're probably going to kill them in the next couple turns anyway. So we usually want things that have more immediate punch than that. Because when the players are beating up on monsters, that's usually an event that only lasts a couple rounds. Effects against players you can get a lot more creative with, because they're going to have to live with whatever that happens, right? That's why things like insanity and disease and all those great things are great to give to monsters. But this is more of a player resource, and while players enjoy the idea of curses and diseases and horrible mutations and all that stuff against their enemies, it usually doesn't have a practical application in the average encounter, because the average encounter usually consists of the players murderizing whatever they were fighting. Or getting murderized, one of the two. So yeah, here we go. We put in our... How did we label this? On failure. So, on failure, if the target is a fiend, it takes the value indicated in the potency table, 2d6 for common. And then if we throw... So I think if we're talking about only a pint of water, like with Alchemy of Fire, I think it makes more sense that it splashes bigger. Do we want to do a 5-foot radius, or do we want to do a single target attack? I think in this case, it'll be a single target attack. So we just snip something like this. Well, all of our other throne versions do a radius. Do we want to do a radius? Yeah, consistency is nice. So the thing with like Alchemy Fire is you can't really splash it on something, because as soon as it contacts the air, it ignites, that sort of thing. I think that's where we did this part here. So what we did in these ones, I'm kind of remembering part of our design, which we might actually adapt here. I think we're gonna change course a little bit to use this. Is normally in the default rules of D&D, what happens is an improvised weapon is an improvised ranged weapon when you throw it. Which is kind of an odd concept. There's no such thing as a finesse thrown weapon. So what we did here is we converted them to melee weapons with had the finesse and thrown properties, which I think we're going to do for the Holy Water too. Yeah, I think with a pint doing a splash effect that's more than just a maximum of 5 feet is probably too complicated. So let's just grab this whole snippet, since our new motto here is consistency. And we'll go down here, and we will say on hit, if the target is a fiend or undead, it takes radiant damage equal... You can throw the flask at a creature, treating it as an improvised weapon with the finesse and thrown properties. On hit, the target is So the reason that we do this, the players actually have a minion that loves to use Holy Water as a sneak attack. Originally, for a while, we thought that they weren't able to do that because it was an improvised weapon. But because it's an improvised thrown weapon, or ranged weapon, you actually can apply sneak attack with it, even by the default. But that's what we preserve here when we make it a finesse weapon. Because you can either sneak attack with a ranged weapon or a finesse weapon. Yeah, I don't know what an alchemy jug makes off the top of my head. I don't think much useful. Let's pull up an alchemy jug. Yeah, nothing here is applicable. When it says acid, it's not referring to alchemical acid. That's just acid. The most important thing an alchemy jug can make is 4 gallons of beer, which is pretty important, mind you, but not that important. Unfortunately, you can never give it to players, or they will make 2 gallons of mayonnaise, and that's disgusting. You can give them one that's broken and only makes beer, though. Now that can't go wrong. We need a Grenader Artificer. So actually, the Grenader Artificer is something I would have made a long time ago, besides the fact that I think the Potionsmith already largely covers that. That's how most of the Potionsmiths kind of play. And there's a series of upgrades for the Potionsmith that can make them a better Grenader even. And even like Rocketry, which is one of the newer Potionsmith upgrades in the expanded toolbox, which takes it to a bit of a silly next level, but is entertaining, and I think some people enjoy doing that. Unfortunately, if you get an alchemy jug, you're probably going to have to lose it to one of your companions, who would take it and run off with it. Alright, so we were halfway through this. We changed this to flask. As an action, you can throw the flask at a point within 20 feet, causing a sudden splatter of holy water. Fiend. Fiends and undead in that area must make a dexterity saving throw. DC 12 for common. Or take radiant damage equal to the value indicated on the potency table. 2d6 for common. And this doesn't apply. Alright. Hey Kibbles, a design question. Why did you decide to have all upgrades be under the subclass? So that is a long story. Back when I first made the Artificer, I only had the Golemsmith, or well, the Runesmith became the Golemsmith, the Thundersmith, and the Warsmith. Those were the original 3. And I had actually planned to, at some point, merge most of the upgrades between those 3 because they were all kind of a tinkering, engineering-based Artificer. But a lot of people wanted me to add an Alchemist to my Artificer, ever since the very start. And originally I was against that, because it would make it so not all the upgrades would be compatible. I wouldn't be able to merge them. But a lot of people really wanted an Alchemist. So I gave up on that, and I just decided to keep all the upgrades at the subclass level. Because upgrades that make sense for a Cannonsmith make very little sense for a potionsmith to have. Those are very different specialties. And over time, really what's happened is the Artificer has become essentially 3 classes. The Artificer is the Arcane Engineer, the Arcanist, which is the Infusion Smith, the Rune Smith, primarily those two that tinker with magic and enchanting. And it is the Engineer, which is the Cannon Smith, the War Smith, the Gadget Smith. All those are more of the Tinkerer. And then it is the Bio one, which is the Potion Smith and the Flesh Smith. So that's the thing. If I combined it into 3 classes, those ones could share upgrades to some extent, but they cannot share upgrades across from like the Potion Smith to the Infusion Smith to the Gadgeteer, because those tend to stray down pretty different paths. Not to mention then that at this point it'd also just be absurdly hard to balance, because even if you look at a feature like cross-disciplinary knowledge that allows that to an extent, that feature has caused more balance patches than almost any other feature in the class. Just because every time you allow someone to plug X into Y, you get exponentially more places where the class can be too strong. Flexibility is power, so you have to be very careful when you're giving truly extensive flexibility. We saw this kind of play out with the Mystic that Wizards of the Coast did. That they tried to give all Mystic orders the ability to grab disciplines from every other Mystic order. And you could make some really nasty characters with that. That would have extreme burst damage, the ability to resurrect without diamonds, and the ability to, charm everyone within 10 feet, all in the same character. You could make real monsters. I think this is why you tend to see reviews of the Mystic that are so wildly disparate. Some people will say everything was fine when they played it, and other people will say it's the worst, most abominable things ever played at their table. And that's because some people played the Mystic to make a sensible character that was thematic and appropriate, and some people built the Mystic to be a juggernaut of annihilation that could do everything. But that's the main worry that the Artificer has, right? If I were to open too many floodgates, you could make a character by picking the strongest features from each subclass to make a monster. Right now, I can reasonably balance everything you can take as a subclass, right? Every permutation of what your subclass can have, I have some idea of what that'll do. But if everything could take everything, it would be beyond anything anyone could really balance, I think. But that was the original plan. I didn't plan on having them all be subclass specific. I was originally going to do it like, if you have seen The Occultist, that was the original plan, where there's a handful of unique upgrades to each list, or to each subclass, and then there's a general pool of generic ones. I think all the way up until like 1.4 it had generic upgrades for all subclasses. And it might come back to some extent. That's kind of what cross-disciplinary was, in letting you take any Gadgetsmith upgrade. It was like saying, here, you can poach one of these. But right now there's an upper limit to that by mental adaptability plus cross-disciplinary, meaning you can poach up to 2. But that's somewhat gated by the fact that cross-disciplinary doesn't allow you to take anything. And that's exactly why it doesn't let you take anything. Alright, that was a long tangent, but 1 second. All right. We have made 1 item so far. It's great progress. It's a good problem to have when we have too many people talking in chat. We've made it to affiliates, but I think the path to partner is something we're not even gonna talk about that one. They want ridiculous, crazy numbers for that. I don't really know what being affiliate got us, besides now at least saves my streams, which is useful because this one I forgot to record, so I have to pull the Twitch version. But at least now we have them saved for 15 days on Twitch for people to catch up on, or for me to pull from. I think if I streamed Fortnite, it would not be a show for the ages. My FPS days are long behind me. Alcohol. Well, we'll see. Fortnite did not exist when I was in my FPS days. Reanimation formula. That could be something. So, what do we want to do? So poisons, we could start tackling poisons. But poisons cover a lot of things. So when we think about a poison, we have application poisons, weapon poisons, inhaled poisons, and nom-nommed poisons, ingested poisons. So let's take a quick look. I think that would be more a ritual thing than a potion. Yeah. Let's look at what exists for poisons already. If I type in poison, what do I get? Okay, that is not what I was looking for. Sometimes D&D Beyond search drives me a little bit insane. Alright, so this is the list of poison that the DMG has. And you guys can tell me where you do not like it, and where you do like it. I think the first thing that stands out to anyone is that the prices are redonkulous. But some of these are very powerful. So in the DMG, they have contact poisons, ingested poisons, inhaled poisons, and injury poisons. What is the difference between contact and injury? So a contact poison, you just touch it does damage. Injury only damages you if it's part of a damaging attack, it looks like. For piercing or slashing damage. So I think there's no need to try to reinvent the wheel here. Holding one's breath is ineffective. So I think we can still use these categories. What is our objection to these poisons? Just that there's not enough generic ones? So I'm guessing the poisons you guys are probably most interested in are injury poisons, which would be purple worm, serpent venom, and wyvern poison. Are those the only injury poisons? Oh, and drow poison. The biggest problem is absorbent amount of resistance to immunity. I don't think we're gonna fix that problem. Alchemy, drugs. Poison damage is weak only in the sense that something's immune or resistant or immune to it, but the damage these do are actually quite substantial. Not that many creatures are actually resistant to poison, Marty. I don't have a list of it, but my inclination is that most creatures are either immune to poison or affected by it fully. That might be a fine idea for a reagent. Not suggesting that we don't want to do that. I think that might be a good idea, actually. But I would be curious to see how long the list of poison resistances are, because the vast majority of the time, what we see is immunity to creatures that just make no sense for taking poison damage. Sure, go ahead and post that list here and we can take a quick look. The problem with immunity is that most of the time you don't want to remove the immunity because how are you poisoning a skeleton? It just doesn't really make any sense, right? Until you get to something like acid damage, poison just isn't going to do anything to a skeleton. Now, what we could do is we could do something more specific. We could make poison that affects fiends and demons, because those are demons and devils, because those are something that are usually immune to poison, but could logically be poisoned. It's just that their nature means that mortal poisons aren't very effective. So I think that's a good idea where we could apply that. It would be a creature-specific override to it. Because I'm sure you guys can imagine a poison that affects a demon or devil, whereas you can't really imagine a poison that would affect a skeleton. So I think that's a good idea. We'll throw this into, under poisons, we'll do poisoning agents. So we'll say, like, allow fiend to be poisoned. I don't know what is that list, Captain Deadfire? Alright, I can open that. So all monsters combined, poison. Yeah, you see only 11 resistances. That's about what I would expect. But we can't just blindly immune. We can't just blindly make everything work here, because there's a lot of cases where that just doesn't make logical sense. And we need to keep our game with magical fireballs very realistic. It's important. We must be able to explain why everything works. Is cold resistant more than fire? Yeah, apparently it is. I think this is somewhat weighted by what things tend to end up fighting. So, poisoning agents. And then I guess the other thing we wanted was cheaper, more common poisons. So before we move on to that, I think we have our name for... So what were we preferring? Dark Ichor or Unholy Water? Let's take our vote here between those two names or something else that someone comes up with real fast. I think those were the leading contenders. Let's see... You guys better not do a split vote here again. We have 2 for Dark Ichor and 3 for Unholy Water so far. Okay, 4 for Holy Water. I guess Unholy Water takes it. So, that makes our life easy. We can... Well, Varixlia, you can always call your version Dark Ichor. Here's what we can do as our compromise. We can do unholy water, sometimes called dark ichor, or sacrilegious swill. Profane water. So what does holy water look like? Probably murky. Murky and shadowed. It seems. Murky, shadowed, and constantly burbling with something foul. It has a distinctly unpleasant odor. Let's switch this column break to a page break. No, I think we hopefully don't have this on the cooking. So cooking will be something we will maybe tackle in the future. It's not on the top of the list. Currently, crafting from a vote a long time ago. The first crafting to show up will be alchemy, blacksmithing, and enchanting. After that, I will probably do another vote just because it was so long ago. I think last time that the actual fourth place was like engineering to make siege weapons or something crazy. This is what happens when I let Patreon decide on things. But that didn't make the top 3. So once we have the first 3 out, which God knows when that's going to be at the rate we're going, I will have another vote for what people want next. And cooking, engineering will be options, leatherworking, all the standard stuff. I mean, eventually, hopefully, we'll have everything. Patreon sometimes illustrates the issues with pure democracy, as it is pure chaos. So what do we call the steps of this? We have common, blessed, celestial, divine here. There's probably no such thing as divine on the unholy version. So what's the opposite of blessed? Cursed? Profane? Profane works. What would be the top level? Besmirched, foul, defiled. Oh, these are some good suggestions. So let's go with. All right. So what between accursed, accursed, foul. So we're going defiled from the top level. But now in the middle one, do we want to do profane, accursed, foul, or infernal? Probably not infernal, because that would be too demonish. But profane or accursed or foul. Probably profane or accursed. Those are the ones I'm looking at between. There's not actually that much difference between something made by devils and dark gods. Asmodeus is, in fact, a dark god these days. I don't think we need 2 different substances for something devils make versus something Bane or someone makes. True, anything can be a god these days. That's what happened in the time of troubles. Tier 1 is always just common. It's just unholy water. Alright, so this no longer applies. So, do we just flip this? Here's the question. Do we just, does this work against everything besides undead and fiends? So just if the target is not an undead or fiend, this works. If the target is not... Well, evil does seem to be more efficient sometimes. Has an effect versus non-undead fiends, but mass effect versus celestial beings, it could be. It could do less damage overall. We might bring up the effect of holy water a little bit. So maybe we make it so this can affect not undead or fiends, so it gives a broader range of things, but it's generally less effective. That seems like a fair compromise. Creatures other than... It doesn't seem to make much sense to have it work on fiends and undead if they're the ones that make it. It's basically what they would use as bathwater. I don't think even all angels are immune to radiant damage. But humans, for example, certainly aren't immune to radiant damage, and holy water doesn't affect them. It's not purely just water of that damage type. This isn't going to work very well on angels, is it? Demons probably should have thought that plan through better. Are all angels actually immune to necrotic? I would assume it's only the higher level ones that are. Takes necrotic. I just don't see why something made by fiends would be particularly effective against them. It's like if holy water worked against angels. The gods are going to stop blessing that stuff if it starts being used like that. The point of these is to be made to destroy their enemies, which sometimes for fiends their enemies are their fiends, but same thing for angels too. Sure, that's why, but I mean, dark gods often have fiends and undead for their servants. That's the kind of classic combo. Yeah, there's a certain temptation to make it so devil-made stuff works on demons and demon-made stuff works on devils. I just feel that's getting a little bit too far into the weeds. Maybe we put a variant in. Like we did up here. We do variants. This might be getting too far into the weeds, but let's try that. So variant infernal. Made with special anti-demonic properties. This serves this affects fiends of a demonic origin. Abyssal. Made with special anti-devil properties. This affects fiends of a infernal origin. Yeah, this should probably bypass the resistance. And they gain no benefit to damage resistance against this item. There should be a third variant that affects both of them. Maybe. Do you guys want to put a third variant in here? What would we call a third variant? This is starting to get way too far into the weeds. We could do that. Yeah, at that point they could be using holy water. You kind of get the feeling that they might not want to. Well, we'll stick with this for now. Yugoloths. I don't think anyone would make water targeting the Yugoloths. They don't really have a primary enemy, besides holy divine creatures, obviously. Yugoloths fight on both sides. Yugoloths are probably the people that make this stuff, to be honest, and then sell it to both sides. They probably just make a giant vat and then separate it out into two things, put anti-demon fluid in one, anti-devil fluid in the other, and then sell it at a massive profit. That's the Yugoloth motto. Alright, so I think we have holy water and unholy water. We do need to make sure that we put unholy in front of our holies. Unholy. It's an action you can throw the blast at a creature. Good luck with your game, Abrock. So I think we're going to bring up the damage of holy water by a step. So what these are 2d8. I think we're going to bring holy water up quite a bit, actually. We're going to bring holy water up to 2d10, 3d10, 4d10, and then, sorry, 1 second. And I'm back. Sorry about that. And then just 6d10. 6d10. Which I think also matches pretty closely with our arrows of slaying. That guy who uses an X-ray. So what we decided to work on was our common item list. So what this is this is a list of common items that both improve upon the usability of common items in D&D and expands to some new things. So far, this was the list we came up with in the first part of the stream. Now we're kind of working on making that list of things. The long-term purpose of this list is to tie into the crafting system, to be low-level things for crafting to make, particularly for alchemy. Explosives are on this list, and we will definitely be getting to those shortly. I'm pretty sure Yugoloths actually open a store in most major cities. I am pretty sure that somewhere in Waterdeep there is a Yugoloth owned store, and certainly in Sigil there is. In Sigil there's probably a whole block of them. That's just how Ulos operates. No one really wants to fight with them that much, because they're convenient mercenaries. Right, so the long-term goal of this is to tie into the crafting system, which includes alchemy, blacksmithing, and enchanting. A lot of these are going to be alchemy items, but not all of them. Explosives are probably an alchemy item. All the alchemy ones that say alchemy are definitely an alchemy item. And then some of these other ones will definitely be alchemy based. So what do we want to work on next? I think poisons will probably be a whole kind of session on their own. And we are running out of time, so we probably aren't going to start on poisons today. Let's start into explosives. Explosives are always fun. I like explosives. Explosives are a good time. In D&D, of course. Don't use explosives in real life and whatnot. Stick to your D&D games. So we were going to probably make a new header for explosives, because we're probably going to have a lot of these. And now we are going to attach your mileage may vary to explosives. One of the things we like to do around this part is to give both players and DMs a bit of an out, to say that explosives might not exist in all worlds, etc., etc. And if they do, we're not necessarily talking about black powder or gunpowder or smoke powder or whatever the flavor of the month is. We're just talking about something that has an effect like that. This can be sort of an alchemy base. They're made by alchemists, and you have to have a fairly limited imagination to imagine that alchemists can't make something that blows up when they can make whatever else alchemists can make. I mean, magic stuff. So we don't try to define too much what this is called, though we might put our suggestions in there. But we do have certain properties that make it a lot like something that blows up. The real skill is making something that blows up when it's supposed to. Exactly. And that might be involved in the crafting table. Maybe crafting this stuff is a little bit more dangerous than some of the other stuffs you might craft. And the same thing goes with poison. Maybe crafting some poison to get you poisoned. Maybe crafting some explosives get you exploded. So, we will write down here, explosives can cover a broad range of materials, and exactly what they are crafted from may vary between settings. Some suggestions include black powder, smoke powder, or some form of blasting powder. The nature of this alchemy crafted substance can vary and may or may not exist in all settings. So that's sort of our disclaimer here, to say that you can use this if you want, you don't have to use this if you don't. This makes sense to me in any setting that has a fairly high degree of alchemy, because by the time you can make alchemical fire and healing potions and other magical things, it makes sense you can probably figure something that goes up like a fireball. So what kind of explosives do we want? We want, like, mining explosives. Dynamite. We're going to rename that a bit. Breaching charges. Fiery death ones. Well, I think most of them include Fiery Death. Firecracker is probably on the lower end of the tier. Yep, we had Flashbang. Do we have anything else down here? Mines. Mines. Breaching charges. So breaching charges is probably a variant of mining explosives. It's just a shaped charge of whatever else would be here. Heat shells. Is that supposed to be high explosive anti-tank shells? That seems maybe a step up the tech tree. One of the things that I've been planning on making for a while, and that I might make as a future product, who knows? I'm talking vaguely here, is that I kind of have some intention of, if I ever write a more unified supplement for the Artificer, I'll write something like, some generic title, Kibble's Book of Innovation. And one of the sections would be like, how to advance your world's tech tree. And just have like the DMG has a very small set of items for higher tech tree. But I think it's really fun to include occasionally anachronistic items in your world, as well as have a section for what kind of a step on the tech tree your world is at, and how things will spread through your world when you take the next step. Either things that are from other planets or lost technologies scattered about, as well as things that are nations and states and so forth innovating something new. An anti-magic grenade sounds like a cool idea, but probably not an explosive necessarily. So I think this is about where we're going to wrap up. This is usually about the time we go to. About an hour and a half. I do want to say Friday's stream is not going to be quite the same. We will probably pick up on this particular project on Tuesday. For Friday's stream, I'm going to be sending out an announcement about exactly what we're doing, but I will be streaming a sort of play test with another home brewer named the Arena Guy, Tag. Some of you guys might know him. I don't know if Tag is in chat, so I won't make any promises on his behalf. But so I will probably start a little bit earlier than usual, probably about half an hour earlier than usual. And I will walk through what we're going to be doing and what character we'll be using, stuff like that. And then we will do like a playtest arena, which is what he makes, so something called the Arena System. But we will be using some of the character creations exactly Friday. We'll be doing this Friday. We'll be playtesting some of the character creations that I make, and pitting them against the arena that he makes. Should be a lot of fun. There will be a post to follow up. My thought is, and this is what the post will contain, is that I will invite some of you people, probably just 2 or 3, I think probably 2 for this first one, if people want to join in on this. And so what the idea is, we'll just play through his arena for a couple levels, and I'll describe in the post a bit more how it works. And some happy volunteers, or if we don't get enough volunteers, I can round up players. Well, play through the arena for a couple hours and see how it goes. Just to be clear, it's pretty much just a D&D combat simulator. There's not going to be any deep character backstories and intense role-playing sessions. But I think it should be a lot of fun, and it'll start giving us like a playtest that you can actually watch and we can talk about. So I think that'll be a lot of fun. But we'll be doing that on a Friday. That should start the arena run should start about the same time the stream normally does. So I will be on probably half an hour before to give some context, hang out, that sort of thing. And then we will run for probably a couple hours. So the way that we'll find volunteers, if we get volunteers, will be that I'll include that in the post. So that's going to go out on Patreon, probably on the Discord as well. So there'll be instructions there on how to volunteer if you want. You will probably need the ability to play on Roll20. You don't need to know how to use it, because I don't know how to use it. I will attempt to figure that out before Friday. You probably need the ability to talk for at least the first one, just because it's going to be challenging to coordinate. If that's a big hurdle for some people, maybe we can try to figure something out in the long run. But since none of us know how to use either the arena system or Roll20, it's probably going to be something we need some form of voice communication for. If you want to watch, though, I will be streaming it. So you can still hang out, and I think Tag usually recruits chat to help populate what monsters the lucky participants manage to fight. So you will still be involved in probably the more fun side of the thing, which is to define the suffering of the players, watching their resources slowly dwindle as you vote for more and more overpowered monsters to destroy them. I see that I have managed to invoke the proper response there. So yeah, that's what we'll be doing Friday. So as I said, I'll be on about half an hour early, and it'll probably go quite a few hours longer. And I'll give more of a rundown in the actual announcement. I just want to kind of preface that's what we'll be doing on Friday, and then probably next Tuesday we'll pick this up and delve into explosives, and that should be fun because explosives are always a good time. All right, so I will see you guys on Friday, and as always, feel free to join the Discord, get a hold of me on Reddit, anywhere else, and send me any ideas you have. Feedback, thoughts, it's all welcome. All right, talk to you guys later.